All right, let's go ahead and jump on in then, because I know we have a lot to cover and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions. So let's go ahead and jump in. So to start, I am Alana Davis, your host and meetup organizer. I work with e-commerce shops to remove friction from the buying process. My focus is really around rescuing Shopify websites, where I make them more effective and attracting more visitors, providing better SEO, and increasing conversion rates just at a fraction of the cost of a full redesign. A quick look at our agenda for today. This webinar is currently being recorded, so my hope is that everything will work. Sometimes Zoom throws us some surprises, but I will be able to share hopefully later on today. So it will be recorded. Feel free to take notes, but I will definitely be sharing it, assuming it all works. I wanted to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. Shopify, it's more than just an e-commerce solution. You can sell anywhere to anyone with Shopify's e-commerce platform and point of sale features. And then Jason LD for SEO transforms your SEO with rich results, a program that allows you to show review stars, price, and availability in Google search, Bing, and Pinterest. And I'll be sharing some links for those in just a moment so that you'll be able to look them up if you need some more information. We do have a couple of upcoming events happening. I have actually quite a few planned into the new year already, but October will be the last one for this year. So we're going to be talking about email marketing strategies to retain customers with a big focus around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And so, once you actually get folks to sign up during this holiday, how do you keep them on board after that as well? And then January, our first one, as we come back from the new year, will be live store feedback. So definitely keep an eye out for both of those events coming up. And if you have topics that you would like for me to explore or talk about, let me know. You're going to be getting a feedback request form later on today. So it's helpful for me to know what you want to see so that I make sure that I'm actually providing a value for you. So definitely let me know what you like or don't like about these meetups and what topics you would like to discuss as well. And then there's a link in here as well that I'll share in a second for our Facebook group on Facebook, our Facebook group on Facebook for the PDX Shopify Meetup. Let's go ahead and introduce Chloe Fisher. She is the Director of Technology Partnerships at Clyde, and an amazing person that you all should know. She's going to chat with us today about product protection, which I think is really an underutilized option for a lot of Shopify stores. So I'm really excited for this. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you so much, Alana. I'm so excited to be here. Let me go ahead and just pull up my screen here. And can you see my screen all right?
Yep, you're good.
All right, awesome. So, hey everyone, as Alana mentioned, I am Chloe Fisher, the Director of Agency Partnerships at Clyde. Clyde itself is based out of New York City, but I am located in beautiful Austin, Texas. I'm thrilled to be at the Portland meetup. Portland is one of my favorite cities, and if Austin didn't exist, I'd probably move there tomorrow. So really glad to be here with you guys and just kind of share a little bit more about potentially how we can add some benefits to our existing services on our stores, drive some revenue, and really increase that lifetime value by offering product protection and other microservices as well. So as Alana mentioned, Clyde is a product protection platform that's democratizing the process of selling extended warranties, product protection online, and giving businesses of all sizes the ability to sell extended warranties. Now, extended warranties themselves sort of have a negative connotation, and we're also working against that. We're working to disrupt that negative connotation that surrounds them. And I'm happy to share more about that. But today I'm going to aim my focus less on Clyde and more on product protection apps and e-commerce microservices as a whole. I'm really going to avoid just pitching a product at you. That's not what I'm here to do. But please be aware that I have some Clyde customer case studies in here. And I'll sometimes refer back to Clyde in hypothetical examples or as we're walking through a widget, just because it's sometimes helpful to see those visuals. But that being said, my goal here is to help you think about what microservices you can offer up to your customers. So that's kind of my caveat. So the easiest way to think of product protection apps in general is that we offer Apple Care for all of the businesses of the world who aren't Apple sized. So another good example is Best Buy, Geek Squad. If you guys are anything like me, then you've probably spilled sparkling water or coffee on any laptop you've ever owned. Best Buy knows there's a lot of people like me in the world, and they make a killing off of us. So one of my favorite stats actually is in Q3 of 2019, Best Buy made 53% of their profit off of extended warranty contracts. That's right. Best Buy made more in selling protection plans on products than they made in actual product sales. And up until a few years ago, product protection coverage was really reserved for those Apples and Best Buys of the world. But our technology and technologies like ours are democratizing the offering so that merchants of all sizes can offer that coverage for their clients. So we exist kind of for two primary reasons. The first is to help merchants who are like you guys to maximize the performance of the programs that you have in place and the longevity of your relationship with the customer. So this means not only are you offering up a warranty program that helps you drive incremental revenue. So using Clyde as an example, generally our merchants make 60 to 80% profit off of each contract that's sold. They make the majority profit. But it also increases the average order value when you add that protection plan to a cart purchase by about 10% when a contract is sold alongside a product. So in addition to that, you're keeping your customers happy when you're selling warranties. So good research actually tells us that 47% of customers are looking to see if you offer product protection before they purchase from you, right? If we consider what the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Targets of the world are doing, this is popping up more and more. I was telling Alana just a couple minutes ago before we started this call, a story about a colleague of mine who bought sort of a cheapy hairdryer at Target over the weekend. And when she went to check out at the register inside the Target brick and mortar store, it asked her if she wanted to add product protection at a self-checkout kiosk. So we're adapting to stay flexible with what's happening in the market. And when these big box retailers, these third-party marketplaces have these offerings, we want to be able to make sure that merchants of all sizes can offer that up as well. So product protection is sort of a new standard on the market with third-party marketplaces like Amazon, like Walmart, offering it up to their customers. Now, the second reason that we exist is to help empower customers by unlocking the full potential of the products that they buy. So obviously, none of us want something to go wrong with the products we sell, but mistakes happen. To my point, I spill coffee on my laptop. Maybe you have a kid who throws a toy at your new flat screen TV. A lightning storm can cause a power surge, or your dog chews on your headphones, right? It's not that these products are bad, it's that we are human. It's 2021, mistakes happen. So in those moments where mistakes happen, we wanna offer up exceptional service to end customers so that they feel empowered and supported. And we wanna delight those customers so that they return to our brand and keep doing business with us because they received a really positive outcome. So our product increases customer lifetime value. And I think, as we all know, probably at this point, it's a lot cheaper to retain existing customers than go out and constantly acquire new ones. So we want to work hard to make sure we're keeping those customers happy. I will be digging in a little bit more to customer experience and that the importance of that in terms of microservices as we kind of talk through this as well. So why product protection? So in an ever increasingly competitive market, we have to make sure we're working harder than ever to keep our customers happy. So more than just offering extended warranty coverage, it's about empowering businesses from startups to enterprise levels to own the full product ownership experience. And this is actually why Clyde was founded. So several years ago, our founder wasn't actually working in the tech space at all, in the e-commerce space at all. He was just a guy who built out a 3D printer, and he was trying to sell these 3D printers online. And one thing he knew he wanted to do was offer extended warranty coverage, but he was an emerging brand. He was a young business with his own e-com site, just kind of a one-man job. And he went to all of these warranty providers to try to offer coverage. And they all said, you know what, you've got a great product, but you're too small. And unfortunately, he couldn't find a warranty provider who would back him and support coverage. Traditional warranty hasn't been built for smaller retailers, for e-commerce retailers, even merchants who are doing $50 million a year and have really successful brands. That still seems small when you're working with the Samsungs and the Apples, the Best Buys of the world. And that's essentially why Clyde was developed. So our founder saw a gap in the market, and that's what he set out to do, was build a technology to fix that gap so that merchants of all sizes can offer up this kind of protection and stay competitive. So what we do is we work with a really competitive network of insurance partners to offer the best market rates, and also to offer different types of coverage depending on the nature of the product that you're selling. So there's a pretty vast network of different verticals that we can work across. I'll dig into that a little bit later. But really we're taking the technology to enable merchants, and then we're marrying that together with the competitive network of insurance partners to really enable the merchant and the end customer to work better together. So down here, I've listed a stat. This is a Clyde stat, but I think it's an important one to throw out there. So 18% is the average attachment rate at which a contract is purchased alongside an existing product. This is 4 times the industry average. So industry average for traditional warranty is about 4%. It's pretty low, but I would say as you're evaluating microservices, thinking about the microservices that could be beneficial to your brand, a great question to ask any microservice provider is, what is your attachment rate in my vertical? Start to think about that, start to understand that regardless of the type of microservice that you're looking at, and we'll get into some of the different categories in a bit here. But it's a really important question to ask to make sure that this is something where you can actually see success. And it's important to understand what the industry average is versus the microservice that you're looking at as well. So just to give a little context, this diagram is fairly self-explanatory, but hopefully it adds some context to the touch points where extended warranty fits in. So I'll just kind of quickly walk through this. And this is essentially what the ownership lifecycle looks like. So a customer comes in, you attract them to your website, they purchase your product from you or maybe from a third party like Amazon. They get the product, they receive it, they own it, they love it. And then they register the product. Maybe they purchase an extended warranty. And then at some point, the product breaks. The customer breaks the product, they file a claim, and they get it fixed. Now, depending on the different kind of warranty process that you have in place, could take a pretty different period of time. Clyde, for example, auto adjudicates claims in less than 2 minutes. More traditional warranty options, you probably have to go online, fill out a form, mail it, wait for the snail mail to catch up. Sometimes that process can take anywhere from like 3 to 6 weeks, but essentially the claim is adjudicated and then it's resolved, and then the customer continues to use the product. Now, there comes a point anytime we're using any sort of product where the customer decides they no longer want that product, or maybe it's time to upgrade it. Maybe it's time to get the latest iPhone, or maybe it's time for a new laptop, a new e-bike, something like that. And that's where it's really important to make sure that the customer comes back to you, right? So while this flow is great, we want to start unlocking the longevity of the relationship with a customer at the time that they make that second or third purchase. So we have to be sure that we have these solutions in place, these touch points in place, to get them to that point where they purchase from you a second time, a third time. So I want to kind of just take a step back there and help you understand all the work that goes into making this pretty simple flow happen. So, there we go. So we've got sort of this old world and new world approach. So I want to focus on the old world of traditional extended warranty coverage. So not only are these traditional warranty programs reserved for large corporations like Best Buy, as I mentioned, Apple, Samsung, they're also really expensive and time consuming to stand up. So in fact, standing up a traditional warranty program in-house as a merchant generally takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months, a year and a half to 2 years. So you have to consider the process of actually going out and finding a provider who can match their plans and coverage to your products, finding a provider who will work with a business of your size, right? Then you have to build out the offering, go through the licensing process so you can be in compliance. There's a lot of additional risk and regulation involved warranty is insurance. So there's a lot of liability that comes with that as well. Then you have to develop the front end CTA to actually live on your e-commerce site and the tools that go alongside that. Then there's contract matching, FTP uploads, the process of actually hiring out a customer support and success team who can take on all those customer claims and help get claims adjudicated. And then there's likely that manual adjudication process, like I mentioned earlier, with that snail mail trail, right? So what e-commerce product protection apps are doing is taking on all of that heavy lifting for merchants. So with options like Clyde, we have free to use, free to install Shopify apps that have revolutionized the traditional warranty approach. So in our instance, we're a fully licensed insurance administrator, meaning that we support the claims adjudication process. We have an entire team that supports end customers when they need to file a claim and get a resolution. So we also have an out-of-the-box CTA that sells anywhere that merchants are selling. And in terms of coverage, we're going to help with matching coverage to the products you sell. So we're going to work with that network of our best-in-class insurance partners to make sure that our merchants get the best rates on the market. Now, part of the reason this is really important, and you may have heard these magical numbers pop up earlier, is there's a 60 to 80% profit margin. Now, again, I do want to preface this by saying this is a Clyde number. This isn't true across the warranty space. This is a case study from our company. But one thing I will point out here is it's not necessarily the industry average. In fact, it's higher than the industry average. Especially if products are being sold in third-party marketplaces or big box retail. In those cases, the marketplace or the big box retail is probably the one seeing a cut of this profit. So Amazon, for example, I bought an off-brand Roomba on Amazon a couple of years ago, and I purchased an extended warranty through them, and I'm really glad I did, because as it turns out, an off-brand Roomba is not a great purchase. But in terms of that extended warranty that I purchased, Amazon probably saw a bigger cutoff of that than the Amazon seller who actually got the product listed there. So this is why it's important, if we can have these competitive offerings on our site, if we can start driving direct traffic to our site, not only are we working to retain that customer data a little bit more closely that we lose when we're selling on Amazon, but then we're also able to benefit from these profit margins in the same way that big box retailers, third-party marketplaces already are. So quickly, I just want to talk about who's going to see the benefits of a product protection plan. So there are quite a few eligible verticals. Electronics, consumer electronics is certainly a huge one, and probably the first one that comes to mind for most people. Furniture and mattresses is another great one. For example, we at Clyde work with Serta Simmons, Tuft and Needle, Lisa, a number of different mattress brands, auto parts, marine parts, great fits, any sort of household appliance, electric vehicles like e-bikes, e-scooters. One thing I do always like to caveat here is saying that e-commerce apps for product protection are not the guys who've been trying to contact you about your car's extended warranty. I know we're all getting those calls. I promise that's not us. That's not what we're doing. Jewelry, optical watches tend to be good fits, craft machines, any sort of like hobby machine or tool, sewing machines, musical instruments, restaurant supply, department stores. Any sort of major appliances that we can think of are generally going to be good fits. Now, things that generally aren't going to be good fits for product protection are generally going to be more along the lines of like house plants, which is a bummer for me because I kill every plant I bring home, but also apparel, costumes, footwear, any sort of consumable good. Just by the nature of it, probably not a good fit for Clyde, but if you're not selling in these eligible verticals, hang tight and stay with me, because I do want to talk to you about the other tools on the market that you can offer up to still see the benefit of your customers and why this is important.
I just wanted to interrupt, Chloe. This is an amazing slide. I don't think I really understood all of the different verticals that could use protection plans. And so I just wanted to take a second for everyone to really read through this, because this is phenomenal. Like when I think of protection plans, I also think of it as mostly electronics. It didn't really occur to me that a mattress store could actually benefit from that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. And one of the questions that came up for me when I saw this was, do you find that merchants tend to use product protection plans as more of an upsell or solo? Because I could see people buying this and then later on saying, oh, I wish I would have bought a protection plan. Can they also do it that way especially with all these different verticals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's sort of two ways for us personally at Clyde that you can purchase our coverage. So you can buy it at what we would consider point of sale, so checkout, whether that's online or in store. But then there's generally also the length of the limited warranty. So generally that's going to be like 60 or 90 days. Where you have the option to purchase coverage, right? So limited warranty, sometimes called manufacturer's warranty or OEM warranty. That's what you get out of the box. So you're not paying anything additional for that. When the merchant sends you the product, generally that's included, that's attached. And then if you want to extend that limited warranty, that's when you purchase something like Clyde coverage. Now, the one caveat to that would be something like accidental damage handling, which would actually run in concurrence with the limited and extended warranty. So accidental damage handling is unique. Not every product that's eligible for extended warranty coverage is going to be eligible for accidental damage, right? Something like a major household appliance like a refrigerator, we're probably not picking up our refrigerator and carrying it to Uncle Bob's house for the cookout this weekend. That's going to stay put. So we probably don't need accidental damage handling on something that's stationary versus like a portable Bluetooth speaker. Totally. We could drop that in the pool. We might, drop it on the sidewalk and it breaks. And that's when we would want to have accidental damage handling. But yeah, Alana, to your point, a lot of our customers do end up deciding once they get the item, once the item physically arrives, like, oh my gosh, I got this great pair of, Bose headphones. I want to make sure these are protected. That was an expensive purchase. And one thing we actually saw was during COVID, with these higher ticket value items, we saw an increase, an uptick in the number of end customers who wanted to protect those purchases, right? So what it actually proved to us is that as we get into financially difficult times, consumers want to protect their investments, especially if they're making a high ticket value investment. They want to make sure that they've got the coverage to back it.
That makes total sense. Yeah, I could totally picture my 9-year-old because she takes my my Bluetooth speaker every morning, and I'm like, I could totally see her dropping it on accident. So I love these examples that you're giving. That's
Yeah.
really helpful, I think, for me to also process it. And I would say to those who are here listening, if you have questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. Chloe's happy to take your questions as we go. I know I'm writing some more questions down as we go that I'll ask at the end, but don't be shy. So thanks, Chloe.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So just hopping forward here, I want to talk about customer experience and really the importance of customer experience here. And this is where I want to take the lens outside of just product protection. And I want to look at our business as a whole, right? So everything we're doing as an e-commerce merchant and the crucial role that customer experience plays into getting those repeat business purchases. So nearly 46% of businesses are saying that customer experience is a top priority for them in the next 5 years, right? So I'm sure if we surveyed the merchants here today, we'd find a similar number. Nearly half of you who are selling online are thinking about how to improve customer experience. And if you're not, I promise your competitors are. In fact, as e-commerce has boomed over the last few years, we've seen entire categories of these microservices pop up with different aspects of customer experience in mind. I read an article earlier today about modular commerce, which is essentially the same thing, these microservices. And this is really where we're able to not only upsell, but also offer services to our customers that they're sort of expecting for us, right? So certainly we've got things like Clyde and product protection, but you've also got buy now, pay later, payment financing options like Affirm, like Klarna, Catapult, another great option if you have customers who maybe don't have great credit and don't qualify for Affirm and Klarna. Shipping insurance providers like Route, especially if you're selling items that are fragile in nature. One great example recently is I bought a really nice vase online for my mom for her birthday. And I didn't even realize that when I'd purchased it, I had shipping insurance through Route on it. And I was really, really glad when it arrived. I mean, it was also packaged really well, so the item was safe. but I was so glad I purchased that because it was a gift. And, if we're merchants and we're selling online, what happens when an item arrives to our customer damaged? If we don't have shipping insurance in place, we've kind of got a decision to make. Do we want to lose the money to ship a new item to our customer and hopefully keep their business? Or do we want to say, sorry, you're out of luck, and lose their business, right? So either way, it's a situation where we want to make sure we're offering not just a good customer experience, but we're also backing and protecting you, so that you're not hemorrhaging by trying to get these fragile items across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast or vice versa. We've got review platforms as well: Okendo, Trustpilot, Yotpo. These are some of the best tools on the market. If you're in the beauty space, if you're in the apparel or fashion space, I love what Okendo is doing with putting reviews on Shopify sites in particular. It's so cool, the user-generated content that you can see. You can see in real time, how did this item fit on somebody else who's like approximately my size? What are they saying? Should I buy a size up? Should I buy a size down? Again, if we're considering how we can purchase on Target or on Amazon, if we just scroll down, the reviews are right there. We want to make it just as easy for our customers. So these review platforms are massive. It's huge, especially when you're getting those 5-star reviews. That really boosts your sales. Customer service, super, super important. Gorgeous is doing great work here. Customers doing great work. But again, our customers are expecting more touch points than ever before, and we really need to make sure that we're living up to it. And then we've got return solutions like Loop. So making that return solution seamless, right? We've got Returnly, Narvar, Loop. We've got an entire category devoted to it. And these are just a few examples. By all means, these are not all of the microservices that are out there. It would probably take like 2 hours to just talk about all the verticals of microservices, but these are some of the most common ones that we're seeing with Shopify merchants today. And it's definitely areas where you can figure out, based on the kind of business that you're in, what's going to be helpful to you. All right, so quickly just want to kind of talk about the early days of selling online and how we can reposition that to focus on these microservices. So when we're thinking about how we were selling online maybe 5 or 10 years ago, all of selling online is a funnel, right? So that funnel starts with going out and attracting customers, whether you're doing that through social media ad spend, SEO, whether you're doing that through word of mouth, advertising, wherever you're choosing to spend that money to attract new customers into your site. Now then, interested customers will obviously go to your site and they'll start evaluating. And maybe if you're lucky, they'll even add some items to their cart. And then some of those people who have added items to their cart will check out, right? Certainly, we're always going to have abandoned carts, but we can work using microservices to lessen that amount. And then again, some of those that have added items to their cart will check out and become new customers. Now, at every step in this funnel, we see a drop off. So depending on the vertical that we're in, if we're attracting 100 customers to our site, we can expect about 2 to 4% of them to convert, right? So it's really expensive to go out and acquire those customers to only get 2 to 4% to convert. So we've got to make sure that once we do convert them, we're doing everything we can to keep them. But we also have to consider how Amazon, how Target, how these big box retailers on the market are staying flexible and agile. And that's by upselling. And that's essentially what microservices gives you the opportunity to do, is upsell, but you're upselling products that your customers want, so they're happy to spend the money on them. So instead of going from add to cart to checkout simply to new customer, at the time of checkout, we need to make sure that we've got some microservices to upsell, whether that's, hey, do you need shipping insurance on this glass item that we're sending to you? Do you need free shipping? Or if you, spend $50, you're going to get free shipping. It might be sign up for a loyalty program here through Smile and you start earning points. Or maybe if you're buying a high ticket value item, you look into a buy now, pay later option that's there. So you can break down your payment to installments. I actually did this last year. I bought a new couch for my living room. I used Affirm, and I had a really great experience. When the couch arrived, it was in great shape. I put it together. I made my payments on Affirm. And I enjoyed it so much, and I liked the service so much that I've actually had 3 friends buy similar couches from the same exact merchant and use Affirm for buy now, pay later. So consumers are brand advocates, and microservices are a door that you can use to unlock for them the experience of the full benefits of your brand. So one more thing we have to consider here is that customer experience goes past the tip of this little funnel at the bottom. So when a new customer purchases from you for the first time, that isn't the end of their journey with you. It's just the beginning. And this is where we see a lot of e-commerce brands make mistakes. So when we're talking about new customers, right? Once that item physically arrives, this is similar to the life cycle that we saw earlier. There's product consumption. That end customer starts using the product, they like it, they love it. And then at some point it gets damaged. Once it's damaged, that's an opportunity for a customer service touch point. And this is where repeat business is going to be won or lost. So we have to make sure that when we have this touch point, there's a really positive claims experience that follows that. If we have a negative claims experience, the likelihood is pretty high. I'll share some stats on the next screen. The likelihood's pretty high that we'll lose that customer if we don't get this touch point right. So if we have a positive claims experience, we're probably going to get that repeat business. We're going to likely recover the cost of acquisition by the time of that second purchase or that third purchase, but we're also developing a brand advocate in our customer. So they're making repeat purchases. Maybe they leave a positive review. Maybe, like me, they go and tell their friends how much they love their couch, and their friends go buy that couch too. Now, if we have a negative claims experience, customers are probably going to leave our brand. So 1 in 3 customers surveyed said that they would leave a brand that they love, not just a new brand, a brand that they love after just one bad experience. That's all it takes, is one bad experience. So if we fail to positively impact our customers in the moments that matter most, we risk losing their repeat business. So we also found that 92% of customers would completely abandon a brand after 2 to 3 negative experiences. So small little hiccups, little blips, things like my product arrived and the box was dinged up and the product inside was damaged, or I got the wrong size of my item and now I need to return it and the returns process is a headache. Whatever that issue might be, we have to be really careful. 2 or 3 of these, and unfortunately, we're going to lose our customer. And considering the cost of acquisition, as we discussed in the previous triangle slides, if the cost of customer acquisition is higher than the customer lifetime value, you're losing money. So if we can win back these customers by offering microservices, by offering services that they're willing to pay for to ensure a better end user experience, then why wouldn't we? So one thing that I want to share that I personally really love this statistic. Assurant isn't an insurance company we work with a ton, but they are a product protection company, an insurance company. They actually found that simply by offering the option to buy a protection plan to an end customer, we're increasing a customer's intent to buy by about 25%. Now, I would go ahead and wager that this is true of most microservices. If we give customers options, hey, do you want to purchase shipping insurance? Do you want to look at buy now, pay later options? We're increasing their intent to buy because we're giving the customers options. They're not mad about being upsold in that case. These are services that they're actually willing to spend their money on. So quickly here, I just want to pause to show you what a product protection CTA looks like on a merchant's website. And sorry, again, I don't want to make this a sales pitch at all, but I find the visual is generally pretty helpful. So I am going to show an example of a Clyde customer. So the example I'm actually going to show is a Shopify merchant, Hydro. If you guys are familiar with Hydro, they are a connected fitness rowing machine brand. They're an awesome brand. I personally, when I work out, love to row. It's like my favorite activity, and rowing on a Hydro rower is like, it's one of the best rowers that I've that I've used. So If we actually go into our cart, what we're going to see happen here is a little button pops up that says add extra protection. Now, there are a bunch of different ways we can make this pop up in our cart. I'm going to save you the sales pitch. I'm not going to go into all the ways that can pop up. But if we actually click on the button and look at this CTA here, this is what this is actually going to look like for our end customer. So header here is totally customizable. As a merchant, we can choose what we want this to say. Our value props are going to be determined by the coverage that we're offering. We can add 2-year protection. We can add 3-year protection. And if we were to actually add this to our cart, what we'll see is that it's going to pop up as a separate line item. Is it going to pop up for me? Sorry, I've been having some internet issues today, guys. All right, there we go. So what we see is it pops up as a separate line item here. And if we actually look at the value that we see here, it's about, let's see, just over 10% of the cost of the rower, right? So we've just increased our average order value by selling this protection plan. And at the same time, my customer now has 3 years where they know if something goes wrong with their rower, Clyde's there to help them. Now, one other thing that I do like to point out about the Clyde modal, and I'll pull it up again one more time, which is really important to consider anytime that we're looking at CTAs for any of our brands that we're working with, any of our microservices, is that Clyde's modal is fully ADA compliant. Now, the reason that we know that is because we've got these terms and conditions listed here. So regardless of what kind of microservice you're looking at, I know a lot of merchants are really sensitive today to ADA compliance and making sure that their websites are compliant. It's not just as simple as making sure that you're working with an agency who's got, compliancy. It's not just as simple as making sure that your web pages themselves are compliant. You also have to think about the microservices that you're adding and making sure that those are compliant. You could have a totally compliant website with a microservice that's not compliant, and that makes your website not compliant. So this is something that's hugely important. We're seeing this become more and more of a hot button issue in e-commerce, particularly for merchants who are trying to sell more online and do more D2C sales. ADA compliance is hugely important. One other site that I'll show off, just because I really like the way that they've laid this out, is Vio Laptops. So Vio Laptops is obviously a major laptop brand. They're also a Clyde merchant. Part of the reason that I like the way they've laid this out on their website is that they've actually got on the product listing page all of their Clyde options. I will say Vio has a pretty high attachment rate. So if we consider that 4% is the industry average, Vio has an attachment rate of 20%, 5 times the industry average. I think it's pretty safe to assume if we know that our customers are looking to see if we offer this kind of coverage, if they're anything like me, they're thinking, okay, if I spill Starbucks on my laptop, what's going to happen? Knowing that we have this protection listed here on the product listing page and we can simply add it to cart, that's going to ensure a purchase for us, right? That's going to increase the likelihood that this customer is going to buy from our brand. And it's also presenting it in a really nice way. Now, one other thing I always do like to point out is that most of these will show up as a separate line item in your cart. So these will be SKUs in your back office system of record, whatever system you're using. And they will show up as separate line items, but they are, again, attached as part of that same order if they're purchased at point of sale. If they're purchased after the fact, then obviously that's going to be a separate purchase. All right, so that's just a little bit of kind of an example of what this looks like in real time. If we actually go back to this example here with Hydro, one other thing that we'll see, which I think is just really awesome, is that they have Klarna here. So you can pay as low as $64 a month with Klarna. Now, I will say we'll see a lot of these technologies go really nicely hand in hand. Buy now, pay later technology, extended warranty coverage, shipping insurance. A lot of these technologies tend to work together really nicely as well. So again, when you're evaluating these microservices, if you have more than one microservice on your website, if you're thinking about using something like a returns provider and using something like a buy now, pay later technology, chat with those apps and make sure that there's integration there, that using one isn't going to cancel out the other, because you definitely want to make sure you're squeezing as much juice as you can out of these, so to speak. All right, let's see. I put some slides here just in case my internet stopped working, but yeah, as I mentioned with Hydro, they saw a pretty significant increase. So I can say from a case study perspective on average, in the first 6 months that a merchant implements our technology and uses it, we generally see a 100% increase in their attachment rate, the rate at which a contract is sold alongside a product. Now, Hydro actually saw 3 times that amount. So they saw their attachment rate increase 3 times over the first 6 months. And it's just continued to grow from there. So today they're sitting at nearly a 25% attachment rate. So retailers who are offering extended warranties on average through Clyde see about an 11% AOV increase. And then again with Vio, as I mentioned here, 20% attachment rate, 5 times what some of their competitors are seeing. And these guys are making a 60% margin on every protection plan that they sell. 60% of every contract that's sold ends up directly in their pocket. Now, again, as claims are adjudicated, that money is never touched, right? This is fully backed by insurance. So that's just the gravy that a merchant is making on top of their sales. So why sell warranties, or why look into these microservices? So apps for microservices are generally free or very low cost. Most of them are going to be available out of the box in the Shopify App Store. They're not going to be hard to implement. And you can drive high profit from day one. The second thing is it's going to build customer confidence. It's going to drive direct sales, help you stay competitive in online marketplaces, help you compete with offerings that the Walmarts, the Targets, the Amazons of the world already have. And then it's also going to help reduce frustration on the end of your clients by offering a really simple experience for them. When something does go wrong, we want to make sure that we can turn that around quickly and that they're really delighted by the experience they have. So higher profit margins, more direct to consumer sales, and better customer experiences is generally what we're seeing, not just with warranties, but with microservices across the board. That's everything I have for you, Alana. If anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, this is a QR code. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. I'm also in the Shopify Partner app, Slack, and I'm always around. You can shoot me an email as well. But yeah, happy to answer any questions that the group has.
I love this. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. If you have questions, please put them either in the chat or use the Q&A. I wrote down a handful of questions, so I'll ask mine for sure, but don't hesitate to chime in if anyone has anything that they want to chat about. Mm-hmm. There was a couple things that you talked about, and the whole time that you were saying, I was like, that's me. I was thinking about how, I often don't purchase warranties because I'm cheap and I just don't want to purchase them, to be honest. But then there's times where I wish I would have, and I think that it's really, that's why I was asking the question earlier, because I think it's so nice to be able to kind of add it in with a certain time frame, because there's just so many times where I didn't do it and I wish that I would have. And I feel like it's, when it's offered on a site, it's a higher chance that I'm going to add it on really quickly than it would be if I was in store. Like if I went to Sears many years ago to go purchase something, like I don't think I would have added it on there because I don't have a way to like read through all the terms and conditions and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I love that it's like linked really easily. Again, not trying to promote Clyde. I've never seen it used in an effective way other than with Clyde. So that's why I love it so much. Yeah. So anyways, rambling, but I was thinking of that as you were going through and talking, and like, yep, I've done that before, been there. Where my kiddos dropped my laptop and I panic. Like, that's a $2,000 laptop. Don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could blame a kid. The only person I have to blame is myself.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I've done things like that myself, like spilling hot chocolate or coffee on my keyboard. I didn't do that. No, that wasn't me. So you talked a little bit about the protection plans being part of like an add-on or an upsell. Do you often see it where it's just built in to the price? Have you seen that, or is that possible for stores to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually talking to a partner in the last couple days who told me that one of the specials that his this client of his has, and I think the client is on Big Commerce, I want to say. But the client will actually sort of run a promotion where over Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend, instead of offering something like free shipping, they offer a free 1-year extended warranty. So you'll sometimes see considerations like that. Now we have to be careful with those because anytime we're offering up a free extended warranty, that does mean it's coming at a cost to the merchant, right? The merchant is paying the cost of the contract. And in some cases, that can actually add some additional risk and liability. Now, I will preface this by saying I'm not on the warranties team at Clyde, right? I'm on the partnerships team. Our head of warranties, our VP of warranties, has spent 30 years in this space. She's a woman named Pam Schneider. She knows a lot more about warranties than I do. And she's got a really phenomenal team of people who also come from extended warranty backgrounds, from tools like SquareTrade, from companies like Allstate, right? So my understanding from our team is there can sometimes be some implications there. So you have to be careful when you're offering up free warranties because you don't ultimately, at the end of the day, as a business person, want to be the person that's liable for that. What we do tend to recommend as well is to really let the customer decide if that's something that they want or not, right? To your point, not every product is something that I'm necessarily going to purchase extended warranty coverage on. For example, I bought a new keyboard recently and it was like a $30 keyboard. If I spill coffee on it, it's $30. I'm out $30, but I'm not that worried about it versus my laptop, I'm totally going to insure. Or, a $30 cheapy hair dryer, I'm not going to be as worried about as a Dyson hair dryer, right? So I think it really depends just on the nature of the product, but what we do recommend is really letting the customer make that decision and also seeing how that works for you as a merchant, if that's something that's going to, drive that profit for you or not.
I love that idea because it's much like taxes, right? A lot of people will like they'll include taxes into the price. It's like, well, I'm in Oregon, I don't pay taxes. So when I purchase them, I don't pay taxes. So if you're
Yeah.
adding it into the price, I'm not actually getting value out of that. So you're actually overcharging me. So I love the way that you phrase that. And I think it makes sense. And it also leads me to another question that I have is there a price point that makes sense for a
Yeah.
protection plan?
Yeah, that's a great question and one we get asked a lot. I would say sort of on the lower end of the cost spectrum. Minimum pricing is going to start for items that are around like $50. I would say it's pretty average to see something that's, a few $100s. And then certainly on that higher end, we'll see, $1,000, several $1,000 products. But we definitely have customers who are selling tools for, $50, $60 who are seeing the benefit of Clyde.
Yeah, definitely. So we have one question from Mo. In case this question hasn't been asked yet, every app adds a speed consideration to Shopify as it can slow down the site. What tactics does Clyde use to make sure the app isn't causing slowness in the stores?
This is a really, really good question and absolutely an important consideration, Mo. So I'm glad that you asked this one. Clyde has an uptime of 99.99%. It's pretty fast. It's not slowing down Shopify stores. We were recently a featured app in the Shopify App Store and like the staff picks section. So this is actually something that we specifically have sat down with the team at Shopify and worked to accomplish. The Shopify team, obviously, we're really grateful. They liked the Clyde app and chose to feature it in their app store. But this is something that our engineers have put quite a lot of time and development into. Shopify was the first integration that we had when we initially hit the market. It was Shopify out of the gates. And so certainly the considerations in terms of slowing down a Shopify store are hugely important to us, something that's definitely top of mind. And I'm pretty happy to report I've never heard a customer complain about it. So It's something that we're pretty proud of, but certainly something that to your point, merchants should be aware of as they're evaluating microservices, right? Is this going to slow down, or is this going to negatively affect my conversion rates? That's another thing we need to take into consideration as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question because anytime that you put something on the front end, meaning that your customers see it, it can definitely impact your speed. And so, one thing that I don't recommend, do not install an app to test the speed and then uninstall it, because what oftentimes happens is that you're adding more code to your site and then it could linger. I don't know if Clyde does that or not, but just saying like, please don't do that. Actually contact support if you have questions. So you can contact Clyde directly or whatever app you want to do. Ask them if it impacts speed directly. If you have the knowledge around the technical side of things, you can certainly talk technical with them, but don't just add an app to test it and then delete it if you don't like it. It's better always to ask the questions. But yeah, anytime
Yeah,
you add something to the front end, it can impact your site speed for sure. So it's a good question, Mo.
yeah, and that's a great shout out, Alana, as well.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to keep them coming in. I have more that I'm going to ask because I was just typing away at thinking of all my questions. So you talked about both Hydro and Vio that had a 3 and 5x attachment rate respectively.
Yeah.
Why do you may not know this, but why do you think that is? What made that so sticky for their customers that made it easier for them just to want to go ahead and make that added purchase?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a couple different components to this. So one thing that's worth pointing out is that Vio and Hydro were both companies that had existing warranty programs before they came to Clyde. So they had in-house warranty programs where they really weren't seeing the results, right? So again, as we talked about sort of that old world of warranty, there's not a lot of flexibility in it. And quite frankly, even with a lot of the newer apps in the product protection space that are hitting the market today, there's not a lot of flexibility. Now, one thing that Clyde offers up to our customers, which is a bit unique, is the ability for merchants to play with their markup percentage. So this is a pretty unique offering to Clyde. I'm not aware of any competitors who offer this today. But essentially what we do is we sit down with our customers and we help them optimize their attachment rate. So part of what we look at is that markup percentage. Hey, if you have it on autopilot, it's set at 50%. So 50% of every contract that you're selling is going directly back to you. However, you can go in and play with that number. As I mentioned, most Clyde merchants make a markup percentage somewhere between 60 to 80%. But they're also able to play with that number to figure out where they get the highest attachment rate based on the contract value. And surprisingly, what we actually see is merchants can make a pretty significant markup while increasing their attachment rate. Part of it is just having a really seamless CTA, right? So when we have our own warranty program that's built into our offering, unless we have like some of the best developers in the world working on our Shopify store and dedicating all of their time and focus to that CTA to make sure it's really slick, most of the time what we see is it's a paper trail. It's pretty manual. It's something where maybe they have to fill out a form and mail it in. I can speak from personal example. I bought some really, really lovely dishes that I was super proud. It was like a big girl purchase that I made a couple years ago. And when I bought the dishes, they had a little form in the box that I could fill out and send back. And then my dishes would be covered, right? The protection would be there. That form sat on my counter for 6 months. It didn't get mailed off. I didn't help them with their attachment rate any because it wasn't simple. It wasn't user friendly. It wasn't digital or forward. If I could have scanned a QR code and filled it out on my iPhone, I would have done it right then. Or if I could have purchased it, directly at the same time that I was purchasing my dishes, I definitely would have purchased an extended warranty. They're dishes I really love. In fact, I've added to the set since then, right? So if we're thinking about really what's making Clyde successful, one, it's going to be that flexibility in the markup percentage, and also our team sitting down with merchants to help them figure out how to optimize that, which any app that you're working with, any e-commerce service that you're working with, I would recommend for our merchants to make sure they're having those quarterly business reviews with their success manager. Sit down with them. If they're not giving you that time, let them know you need it. You want to sit down with them. You want to figure out how to optimize and get the most juice out of what you're offering, especially if it's a service that you're paying for. Please sit down with your merchant success managers. Please sit down with your technical account manager or whoever is a given point of contact at your vendors, and make sure that you know how to get the most success out of those. But also, I think it's just about being digital, being mindful of the experiences that our customers are having when they're purchasing, again, on third-party marketplaces, and how can we be competitive against that by making it really easy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's how I feel too. I can't even remember. There was something, oh, I recently bought a blender.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had the same thing. I had one of those cards that they attach to it, and they're like, send this in for your warranty. I'm like, that's just not going to happen. Like,
Yeah. Uh-uh.
I, first of all, it goes off into the abyss. It's like, I don't even know. Did you receive it? I have no idea.
Yeah, they're not communicating that back to you, right? And they're probably getting like, what, 500 of those back a day.
Oh, yeah.
So, then there's just like some little old lady sitting at her desk typing in all of this information to a system when they could have just like sent you something and had you type that information in the first place. And I think it really comes down to the fact that warranties in many cases are sort of outdated, right? If we're not demanding more of our warranty offering, then yeah, it is going to be super outdated. It is going to be that warranty that we think of that has that negative connotation, that snail mail train where you don't get good communication from your provider. And Clyde wants to disrupt that. We want your warranty provider to be someone you actually want to work with. We want you to want to buy coverage because you reap the benefits when you do.
Yeah, and I think, so many people forget too, like these microservices, whether
Yeah.
that's protection plans or your review platform or buy now, pay later, they're all meant to help you as the store owner. And so
Yeah.
if the partners that you're working with aren't actually helping you, like if you have to still send people these cards in the mail for them to fill out, by the time you get it back, you're doing all the data entry and that sort of thing. And really, like, all the data entry that you need is done as part of your checkout already.
Yeah.
So like it seems sort of redundant. The last question that I have, and then we can wrap up if there's no other questions, is when people have an issue with their warranty, are they contacting the microservices like Clyde, or are they contacting the store directly? And how much of that does the store get to make those policies around them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Microservices as a whole, I think it can really vary, right? Let's say, for example, the microservice is a review and somebody leaves a bad review. In that case, it's going to be on the merchant to reach out and make it right, right? So I think it really varies based on the type of microservice. I can say from the perspective of obviously the experience that I have with Clyde, because we are in a regulated space, selling warranties is a little bit more regulated. There's certain protocol that we have to follow. And part of that protocol for us as being the licensed admin, which we are a fully licensed admin, is that we also handle the claims adjudication process. So we have a really simple, easy to use and customer facing portal. We've essentially got two dashboards. We've got a merchant dashboard at joinclyde.com, and we've got an end customer dashboard at highclyde.com. So we keep those two sites separate. So when you're a Clyde customer and you log into highclyde.com, what you see on your dashboard is everything that you've purchased, regardless of the merchant that you've purchased it from. All of it is linked in one dashboard. So you could have 8 items in there that you purchased from 8 different Shopify stores, but they're all going to show up in one dashboard because it recognizes you by your email. So there are 5 different ways you can actually contact Clyde support. You can go through the highclyde.com dashboard and submit a claim. You can email our team. You can give them a call. But yeah, we have a customer support team that fully supports the claims adjudication process. And that's important, again, because we are the insurance admin. In many cases, even when merchants have in-store or in-house warranty programs, they're not going to be the insurance admin, which means in a lot of cases, they're just having to say, hey, go talk to Mr. Warranty Provider over here, sorry, can't help you, which doesn't make customers feel great, right? So instead, what we do is we have an entire team over here that's responsible for helping our end customers, our merchants' customers, making sure that they have really, really positive experiences with our team.
I love that. Yeah, it's always a challenge when you're as a merchant, a store owner, that you're sort of letting someone else manage it for you. And so you have to trust that relationship. And so I think that's kind of why we talked a little bit earlier too about getting to know the people
Yeah,
who are representing you and making sure that they're representing you in the way that you would want to be represented.
absolutely.
Outsourcing anything can be a challenge.
Yeah,
But like when
yeah.
you're doing it with a partner, it feels different. So
Absolutely. And I think it feels different as well when the merchant has visibility into seeing, what is actually happening between, in this case, Clyde and the end customer. So the merchant can actually log into their dashboard and see if a resolution has been filed, if the resolution has been fulfilled, if it still needs resolution, right? So again, this is super important because we want to give our merchants visibility. And even in instances where somebody reaches out to the merchant and not directly to Clyde, the merchant has the ability to go into their portal and just click a button and send off to the end customer an easy little warranty email that's got all of their warranty info as well as all of Clyde support info so that it's sort of at their fingertips, right? So not only are we trying to work really hard to make sure that when a merchant's customers interact with us, we're doing a good job and we're supporting them well, but we also want our merchants to feel really competent in what they're doing. We want them to feel like we've got them covered as well. And if they, pick up the phone and it's somebody asking about a warranty, they have visibility into that as well. So they have full visibility into what Clyde is doing on the back end.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing, Chloe. I don't have any other questions and I don't see any other in the pipe. So thank you. This has been super informational. And I can't wait for folks to be able to rewatch this and kind of process and decide how they want to move forward with offering product protections. I genuinely believe this is something where a lot of stores um, could could improve on, and they just don't really know how it works. So I'm excited to see folks
Absolutely.
change the
Yeah. Thank
process
you.
a little.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I feel like we're sort of in this exciting time where what we saw happen, 4 or 5 years ago with buy now, pay later is what we're starting to see in product protection now. And so we're starting to see all these iterations and it's just going to keep coming. The more and more online sales we make, the more that our merchants are going to need these microservice offerings. So there's new ones popping up every day. If you're selling online, make sure you're staying on top of the microservice offerings that are coming out and figure out what's really going to be beneficial to your business. If it's something that you're hearing from customers, you need to do better. There's probably a microservice out there that can help you. So whether that's Clyde or a technology completely unrelated to product protection, I just encourage merchants to go and check out those microservices. I mean, we're seeing that 40%, nearly 40% of all purchases today made in e-commerce happen on Amazon, and Amazon has all different kinds of microservices. So how can we get agile? How can we compete with that? How can we make sure that we're getting those direct sales and seeing that larger profit, but also maintaining those better touch points with our customers as well? And ultimately, I think it's about empowering our merchants to feel like they have the tools in their tool belt so that they can go and scale.
I love it. Yeah, I definitely agree. Please check out Clyde and contact Chloe if you have questions. It's an awesome organization. Thank you so much,
Thank
Chloe, for your
you.
time. Thanks everyone for joining us. And I hope you all have a lovely afternoon. Take care.